again, I don't think any of this is news to JD Vance. I mean, my message was mostly about true economic populism, like getting to the root cause problems. They helped me convey my message to Trump, helping with their words. And the conversation with Trump was wide ranging, if you know Trump.
All right, without further ado, I want to bring in one of the men that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance wanted to know what they needed to do and know going into the midterms. Rasmussen's top pollster, Mark Mitchell. Mark, welcome back to the show. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. Great to be back.
Merry Christmas. Okay. I see this story. First of all, I don't know. Can I take any credit for this? I have you on. You're issuing warnings. Here's what we need to know. Here's what happened. Next thing you know, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are calling you in. Now, at least as far as I go, I'm taking credit.
Sure. That's great. Please do.
Notice how he doesn't say that's how it happened. But I know that I think the president
don't really
saw
know
the
how
show.
it happened, to be honest with you.
Well, that was so. Let me just give the viewers an understanding. You come on the show, you're always telling us, here's what we need to know, here's why. Unvarnished, no glossiness, whatever. Truth, facts, reality. Next thing I know, I'm reading this Washington Post story, and here's the headline. MAGA leaders warn Trump the base is checking out. Will he listen? Trump advisors say he's preparing to hold near weekly rallies to spend more time with the base, but he's faced criticism from within. And then here's the lead of the story. As Donald Trump ate crab cake lunch inside the White House last month, conservative pollster Mark Mitchell tried to explain that there was a disconnect between what the administration seemed to be focused on and what Trump's passionate base of supporters wanted to see. So walk us through that day. What you just get a phone call? Hey, Mark, can you come to Washington?
Okay, to walk you through accurately, I think I have to step back. Rasmussen's been around for over 20 years. We're an independent pollster, which means we're not paid by either party to try to help them win. And that doesn't mean I can't do campaigns, but mostly it's about public sentiment. Like, what are Americans feeling? And are the representatives in Washington, D.C. doing a good job? And increasingly, the answer has been like, no, F-. We're really on a bad path in America. And I can go into all the polling that backs that up. And so increasingly over the last year, I mean, for a decade, we've been an industry pariah. Fox News even has blacklisted us. We used to go on all the time. They won't touch us.
What do you mean? All that? I saw you guys all the time, like always.
Yeah. Yeah, about 2014, after Scott left the company, never got back on. I don't even know why. Trace Gallagher had us on once, and I was bashing Murdoch's pollster, so maybe that's why, but I don't.
Probably.
Yeah, that could be it. But then, the Washington Post had fact checkers attack us. New York Times had 538, which tried to kick us out. And we've been a pariah. And mostly it's because we've increasingly polled on things that are dangerous for the establishment, like election integrity, weaponization of the federal government, and vaccine safety, and this kind of stuff. We were on a CIA list, the Global Engagement Center, top 50 spreaders of misinformation. So we were basically attacked. And what we've been is just anti-establishment. And so the problem is that we have an entrenched establishment, and the hour is getting late. And so I've been getting louder because I don't want my kids drafted into a NATO World War III, and I want them to be able to grow up and have jobs and have the American dream. And so I think that is kind of new, where I don't have any inhibitions. I will brutally attack Republicans or Democrats alike. And so when I see problems that, in my opinion, endanger this movement, I was very vocal about it. And there was a week or two there where Trump seemed to be doing everything that he could try in order to undermine his own campaign. He was, supporting 600,000 Chinese Communist Party student visas when there were riots on Berkeley campuses. He was talking about Americans not having talent and fighting with media people about affordability. And, I was freaking out about it. Like, these are bad things. I was getting hundreds and hundreds of DMs from 3-time MAGA voters who are not Republican, younger, independent MAGA voters who were burning their MAGA hats and saying, this guy doesn't understand, the wheels are falling off, and complete demoralization. And so that's a problem, because that is cracks in the base. Now, I see a little bit in the numbers, but it's not that bad. And so when I was called to be brought in, Susie Wiles was on board, JD Vance was on board, and I met with them for a few hours, or for an hour, with Marco Rubio. And then they brought me in to talk with Susie, JD, and Trump. And it was very much about, here's where I think what needs to be done in order to help Republicans win next year. And so that's the problem. Republicans winning next year. History tells us they're going to lose. Right now, the polling tells us they're probably going to narrowly lose. How do you buck that trend when you're looking at the Democrat Party now? And they are literally insane. They are going to have an Epstein commission. They're going to go after Trump's cabinet members with anti-corruption charges. They're probably going to censor free speech again. They're going it's probably going to be really wild. And, I don't want to see that. I'd love to see Trump's MAGA agenda succeed because it's popular with the people. I think it has a lot of what Americans need in order to get this system back on track. And so that's what the article basically outlines. I mean, I laid out a path forward, which I think we can see that there's been some pivots on messaging. J.D. Vance's speech at Turning Point, I mean, he nails it. But I wasn't telling J.D., in my opinion, anything that he doesn't know, right? I think the aspect was try to convey this message to Trump because he isn't really getting this feedback from younger voters, from Twitter. He's not there anymore. He's in Truth Social. And there is, I think it's fair to say, I'm not being harsh here, there is a little bit of a bubble.
So I want to walk backwards in a couple of things that you said, because I just want clarity. When you talk about Rasmussen getting attacked and the CIA and all this stuff, is there anyone questioning your methodology? You're a pollster, right? N equals 500, and that's plus or minus 4%. I mean, 4. Okay. Does anyone say you're cooking the books, or is it just that we don't like what you're saying?
That's it. It's always disingenuous tax. And you can even see it in Washington Post. Natalie Allison, I met her. I'm actually very happy and positive about the way the mainstream media is going. In my opinion, she wrote a very fair article. I met her, and I don't think she's a conservative. I think she's, comfort the afflicted, afflict the comfortable kind of person. And it's great to see that again, assuming it's bipartisan. And after that article, I've had people reach out from USA Today and NBC who are just really trying to actually understand and not tarnish. But she said the word conservative. I don't even know what that word means anymore, to be honest with you. I think conservatism is probably a failed set of luxury beliefs. I just want the voters to get what they wanted and to fight the power structures that are there. And so it was good to be there. I think I got my message across, and hopefully this is a helpful article. But before it's hey, I mean, these attacks are disingenuous. So about methodology, mine's straightforward. We haven't really changed it much. There are 4 other people in the industry I trust. Their methodologies are totally different than mine. So
Who are the 4 others?
Quanis, Barris, Trafalgar, and Matt Towery in Insider Advantage. There may be others. I think Emerson does a good job. Oftentimes, you have honest pollsters who have corrupt media establishments over them, and then that's part of the problem. I think Nate Cohn can do a good job. I think he probably reports to managing editors that don't want him to. But in my opinion, methodology matters less than, okay, well, there's a track record of not putting out garbage results. Reuters.
But the point that I'm driving at is no one's saying Rasmussen's cooking the books. They're trying to create an outcome, and so they're only picking certain people. Right, and that's the thing.
I asked Americans a simple question: is it okay to be white? And then what happened? Southern Poverty Law Center wrote an article about it. They canceled Scott Adams. I asked about the vaccines. I was the only person except for Rich Barris who actually cared about vaccine safety. It was literally just a question. And the answer to that is, if you don't like my poll that said that Americans, over half of them, think the vaccine is killing a significant number of people, then go back into the field yourself and try to replicate it. And they won't. They'll just say, oh, conservative leaning far right, blah, 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 is asking tinfoil hat conspiracy theory questions about the vaccine. Well, I mean, it's a question, bro. We should be able to ask questions. I'm reporting what Americans think. That's the most important thing in a representative democracy, right? It's kind of like a report card for our system. And our system sucks. It literally sucks. And everybody knows it. And we're one of the few people that actually talk about that.
I want to get back to this White House meeting because I think this is why, obviously, I want to talk about. But I want to underscore what you just said. I don't think that people get this. The criticism of Mark Mitchell and Rasmussen is asking a question. What do you really think about X? Fill in the blank. And if X is something that doesn't fit the narrative, then you're a bad person. I mean, that's insane The idea that you can't ask a question and say, I want people to know what the American people, because I think that's frankly the whole issue with Trump. You know, we go back to this idea, how did he ever get elected? Well, because he was saying things that people actually believed and wanted someone to fight for, but everyone in the mainstream media wouldn't allow you to hear that. So you thought, wow, I'm alone. And then when they say that he fought for the forgotten men and women, it wasn't they were forgotten, it's that they were discarded and they weren't seen. And that's the thing, is that they don't want you asking the simple questions that they don't want to have to admit are real.
This is it. This is right. And everybody looks at Trump and says, okay, he's an anti-establishment outsider. And you think, well, maybe a person like that has fringe ideas. But almost ubiquitously, if I take a Trump agenda statement or a quote off the campaign trail, strip the name Trump out of it and just ask Americans if they disagree or agree, a majority agrees, usually a strong majority, usually over 60%. Like, oh, is the situation at the border of a crisis? Yeah, that's going to be a strong majority of people who agree with that statement. Like, do physical walls work? Like obviously, we all know that. Should we defund the police? Like, no, that's why would we do that? And so when you look at Trump and you say, well, almost all of his policies are more popular than he is, then you can start to see that the matrix we live in is an entrenched establishment is going to do everything in their power to compromise this guy, as they have, including using the polling industry 3 times in a row in order to basically shill for the establishment.
All right. So I want to get back to the meeting. You have been vocal about issues that need to be addressed, et cetera. And then just walk me through how this whole thing goes down with the White House. Because, I mean, I got to be honest with you, I was the press secretary, right? I would struggle to get, and you have this meeting, J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Susie Wild, and Donald Trump. The 4 probably most powerful, important people, minus the Secretary of War. And that just doesn't happen, okay? I've seen government very close for a long time. There was something that you said or did that people went, the alarm went off and said, we need that guy to come in and talk to us. So was it just a phone call? You pick up your phone, you get DM'd, hey, it's Susie Wiles, can you come see us? Did they send you a signal?
Well, I've been in contact with JD for a while. If you look, one of the most interesting things about our vice president, in my opinion, is who he follows on Twitter. And it's a lot of people who you wouldn't expect, like young socialist people, for instance, because you kind of want to know, well, these are people we want their votes. And what's kind of weird is that if you look at the online influencer space, most of these people kind of get what's going on without really looking at the polling. So there's this like whole other world of online influencer understand the young people. And so one of the things that we've been polling on very heavily over the last 2 or 3 months is, what do the under 40 voters really believe? And so I think that this is the crux of the message. And I've sent some other polls to JD, like the one that said that the Epstein case is not closed. No, people do not believe that. Stop saying that. It's a bad idea. And, hey, boots on the ground in Iran is probably not a good idea either. But I think this message about the under 40 voters, the one that like really is the one the White House needed to see. And it's basically a whole body of work that says, no, the idea that they're more conservative is not the right answer. It's a lot more nuanced than that. Actually, their default position is democratic socialism because they perceive that the best path forward in a failed system. And so, yes, then somewhere along the line, Susie Wallace just reached out to me and I'm like, what is this all about? And I thought I was going to get yelled at for the stuff I said online. Then I said, I'm coming down. JD says, come over to the White House. And I didn't know what to see. I'm an outsider, never been to the White House before, never talked to these people in person. And so I don't know. Susie was really nice to me. She seemed like she knew a lot of what I was saying and was really receptive to the discussion. Again, I don't think any of this is news to JD Vance. I mean, my message was mostly about true economic populism, like getting to the root cause problems. And they helped me, in my opinion, convey my message to Trump, helping with their words. And the conversation with Trump, as the Washington Post reported, was wide ranging, if you know Trump. But I basically boiled it down to this, which was his numbers are not that bad. If you look at net approval, it's roughly equivalent to where Obama 1 and 2 were at this point in his term. I think he's got a floor. Like, I think people will just support him. But we're staring down the barrel of a midterm election where the Democrats are up in the generic ballot right now. They probably could be up higher. So it's good for Republicans that in my polling, it's only D+3. but it's an existential election. I hate to say that. I hate to be inflammatory, but I really think it is. And so the core of the message I conveyed is that they need to do more. And if I were doing more, it would be a two-prong contract for America. I called it the fight, fight, fight plan for America, because Trump had all these strong optics on the campaign trail that, in my opinion, haven't been converted into sort of like policy momentum. Like, they came out of the gate really hard with a good set of executive orders. I think we can all agree that legislatively, like, it's been a little bit of a mixed bag. I think Doge was very popular. I conveyed that as well. I think Doge really captured the youth zeitgeist because they're not conservative. They want brutal reform. And when Trump was hacking apart the federal government with under 40 voters, his approval rating was the highest. He had a 60% approval rating with under 40 voters. Now it's like 40. So he lost most of that. And now they like Mamdani. And because they think that Mamdani is going to be a systematic reform kind of guy. And so I said the two prongs are actually understanding and addressing the core economic problems, which are much deeper than Bidenflation. It's offshoring, it's H-1Bs, it's corporatism, it's corporate welfare, it's regulatory capture. Like, these are the problems we face. And nobody's really talking about those except Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders is popular with these younger people because they understand it. And the message was, not mission accomplished. We're not at the golden age. We're not even going to be able to get there. This is deep 5-year, 10-year problems. So instead of the golden age, lay out a golden path about how we're going to get there that the Republicans can be seen to be effective accomplishing. Stop fighting Marjorie Taylor Greene and work with Republicans to say, listen, we do have limitations. The problems are big. Here's what we're going to accomplish, and here's what we can get done for November. And then the other prong was, you didn't train the swamp, like brutal, visible accountability for the government. And I think we're seeing this. People don't trust the FBI still. There's a ton of questions. We had a poll from like 2 weeks ago. And usually when Republicans get in power, Republican voters will all of a sudden start to trust the system more. The flip side with Democrats. That hasn't happened. We asked this question, agree or disagree, major agencies like the FBI and the CIA need major reform. And 83% of Trump voters agree with that statement, 83%. And so the swamp hasn't been drained. And this was like, we ran on like a little bit more abstract things like retribution and golden ages. But to be the leader of the free world in a government that's failing, I think you have to understand and really address these problems. And this, unfortunately, I think is a problem for Trump. One of the questions we asked is that, agree or disagree, Trump understands the problems I'm dealing with on a daily basis. And he's underwater, 13 points on that. And with the under 30 voters, only 35% of them agree with that statement. And so to a lot of people, he seems out of touch because he's talking about the stock market. He's flying around the globe, meeting with rich oligarchs. He's, taking cues from Lindsey Graham. And that's just not going to work. These people are like a truffle pig for inauthenticity. And that's why you look at J.D. Vance, you look at AmFest, he got like a record-breaking straw poll. These people love him. He's speaking their language, and Trump kind of isn't. So you go back to that article, and it's like, okay, well, he's going to go out and do more rallies. I don't even know if that's going to be effective. I don't think that's what people want. I think people want a wartime president. And if you're going to be a wartime president, maybe you got to step back. Maybe it's more, comms control, maybe a little bit more discipline there, maybe a little bit more delegation. But you can't be tweeting about Rob Reiner like that. You just can't. And these things are very unhelpful. Maybe back in February when he was hacking apart the government, he could have gotten away with ignoring judges or with throwing people in jail. There's this undercurrent of brutal accountability that the under 40 voter wants. They agreed most with Trump's Napoleon Bonaparte quote. I told Trump that. They want arrests more than anybody else. The under 40 conservatives are so frustrated that they actually want to put an AI in charge of government. They answered that. So I conveyed all of this in a big, long conversation that I can't even really remember. And I think it's Trump's messaging shifted a little. I don't know how much personal credit I can claim for that. But look, the clock's ticking. And we can talk about how great that GDP print is. I still have under 40 economic confidence plummeting and massively high unemployment rates. And so I'm just worried, like he's focused on the economy. But the question I have is 11 months from now, right before the election, what one economic measure could we even point to and say, you know what, this year's been successful. The economy is booming now. And they're going to try to use the stock market and GDP, but a rising tide doesn't lift all boats. We have wealth inequality. We have these entrenched corporate interests that control both parties. So that's why I'm saying it's like forming this plan, addressing the root cause problems of America. Really what it comes down to, and I said this too, is creating a pragmatic, viable alternative to democratic socialism. Because if the Republicans can't, and I'm really worried about this, if they can't, the Democrat socialism is the default position for under 40 voters. And it's going to happen. The Democrat Party is embracing their youth. The Republican Party is kind of fighting back against them. It's really weird. It's not good. And so I think that should drive their messaging. I don't know how many more bites of the reconciliation apple they get, but they need to be very clear about what's going into it and why. And it shouldn't just be like, well, hey, everybody hates LGBT stuff, so we're going to put some LGBT like red meat in there. It's like, no, people can't buy houses. They can't get jobs. All of the women are insane. Like, there are really fundamentally core problems that we have in our country.